What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's RM Korea. It's not Saturday, Friday, obviously, September 20th here. Obviously, getting ready for another weekend of college football in the NFL. Starting off tonight, we got a few games in the college football realm tonight. Obviously, a full slate tomorrow and then going on to Sunday. But first, we always like to do a recap of how we did in our previous game. Obviously, last night, uh, an ugly game, but an ugly game, that means a beautiful under. And that's what it was, obviously. Patriots Jets, obviously, that under was pretty much what free Patriots offense couldn't really do anything at all. In fact, it was so bad they turned to Drake May. And obviously, after the game, we saw Gerard Mayo say it's now a competition. So pretty much Jacoby Brissett has now kind of essentially lost his starting job that
I,
a lot of
I,
people
I
wanted.
saw him. I saw him say that he still is their quarterback. That's what I saw him say.
Well, I saw that I saw an article something about there's a competition, but
Yeah,
either neither. I still think that even if he is, I still think that there is still a competition, in the realm just because of how the Patriots offense looks as a whole. Obviously, it's always going to be the ground game, but the ground game just couldn't really get anything moving. The whole Patriots offense just could not get anything going, and we saw Aaron Rodgers look like it was 2012 Aaron Rodgers for pretty much the good majority of that game. Even though they couldn't really convert, down, in the red zone at times. It was more of, just driving down the field. We saw some really good throws compared to, the last few games, what we saw end season of Aaron Rodgers, just really showing that the age was showing, but he really was defying all the odds last night. And obviously, we weren't hoping for, some 3-4 touchdown performance. And that's not what we've got. And, that was obviously what we needed there. Obviously a full game total was 27. So that obviously soared way under, didn't even go over 30. So we have to mostly thank the Patriots offense for just being that bad. Also just not really doing anything. Brissett, I don't think he totaled over 100 passing yards. Just more of the dump down. That's how Jacoby Brissett really gets the offense moving. We didn't really see any deep passes, any deep balls. We saw a couple throws from Brissett that would, a few, maybe over 10, 15 yards, but it was just mostly, get the ground game going and not maybe a third and down short over the middle completion that'll take a field. And, you're asking a lot from, your skill receivers when you don't really have any skill receivers that, that are that talented on that Patriots team. So obviously it was a great under. Primetime unders might be back. Obviously it looks like, the total, you can say, well, what was a negative? But actually, I think it was more of a positive game script. I was talking about both defenses pretty much, doing their job. And you can say for the first half, the Patriots offense, even though they weren't doing anything, the defense was doing a lot, obviously, getting, pretty much neutralizing the run. We saw Brees Hall, try to get something going early, and, he didn't really get, those big explosive runs that he always be, tackled it, whether it was in the backfield or, at the line of scrimmage. So, I got to credit the Patriots for kind of helping us with that under as well, because there were plenty of opportunities, obviously, for the Patriots, for the Jets to really blow this game open. Obviously, we saw the touchdown that was obviously, which wasted a little bit of time there, so that was helping with that under. And then just the fact that the Patriots offense is so bad. So obviously that was a great under there. So under 38.5, pretty sweat free. I also had the first half under, and that was legacy. If you saw how that first half under hit, obviously Greg Zuerlein is now is a certified KP. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer after that missed kick. So we got to thank Greg Zuerlein for that one. But obviously, Ari, obviously the under hit, but I know the Patriots didn't really do much. You want to explain how bad that offense was yesterday?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. The Patriots defense didn't look that good to me. Also, they did enough for your under, but they got pretty much zero pass rush on Aaron Rodgers. The whole game. I think they maybe had like 1 or 2 sacks, but like it wasn't in big moments or anything. And they didn't allow Brees Hall to have any big runs. So it seemed like Braylon Allen was rushing for like 7, 8 yards every time he touched the ball. So, like I said yesterday, they rely on their defense to keep them in the games and their run game to control the clock. And when you go down 14-0 right away, you're essentially like we said, they cannot play catch up, with any team. So, this was basically over when it was 14-0. When Zuerlein missed the field goal at the end of the first half and they got the ball for the second half, they had some glimmer of hope, but not really, because the Jets were obviously, for a reason, were giving zero respect to their passing game and just essentially bringing everybody up front to stop Ramondre, who he came back, but he missed some time with the finger injury because of an offensive face mask, which is not something that you see very often. And that also kind of gave out some momentum because I think they had the ball like near midfield after he had a big run. And then they called the offensive face mask on that same play, and that brought him, back 15 yards, which for that offense is, that's pretty significant for that offense is 15 yards. So, you know, I was buying into their defense, putting pressure on Rodgers against a Jets offensive line that wasn't necessarily like all that from what we've seen in the first 2 weeks. But I think, this is who we thought the Patriots were going into the season. And now next week they play the 49ers, and that is going to be very, very ugly for whoever's under center. Then they might be sacked like 8 times. So I don't think they're going to start Drake May in his first start against the Niners. I don't see any way that they do that. But yeah, this was a loss that I was not confident in from the start once they're down 14-0, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't even really confident on the side. Like I said, I was leaning the Patriots if I had to pick a side. But obviously, you're backing that offense. And you mentioned if the defense, doesn't really do anything to help out, you mentioned, they already went down 14-0. Aaron Rodgers, had almost all day. And then, when he did have to scramble outside, he had a lot of open space. The classic Aaron Rodgers scramble out to the right or left and, find someone downfield. So, obviously that was pretty much the game plan for the Jets, even if, Breece Hall couldn't really get anything going. Obviously, you mentioned Allen, he was getting about 7-8 yards of carry. So, they did have, a safety blanket and Braylon Allen, obviously, who's kind of emerging as, a great, back for them, out as a patch catching back as well for Aaron Rodgers. I feel like, the Jets could maybe get some momentum going. And you mentioned maybe the Patriots have kind of fallen back down to earth, obviously, after a little bit of a hot start, obviously playing close with the Seahawks and that close home loss, and then obviously upsetting the Bengals, maybe coming back down to reality, saying, oh, well, the Patriots are who we thought they are. They are not good, and that pretty much showed out yesterday. The 24-3 loss. So obviously, one-on-one day, obviously tough Thursday night football loss for you, but obviously great under for me. We'll hopefully get back into it this weekend, obviously, with a bounce back for me, obviously, as well for you. We got some plays, obviously, for the weekend, but obviously we got some plays tonight. Friday, we got 3 college football games here, and I'm going to the Big Ten here, the Big Ten game here between Illinois and Nebraska. I got this total actually at 44, but I said I like it at 43. If it get down to 42, I'd say I only would take it there. But if it gets down under 42, stop that right there. So I am going to maybe buy this back up a half point, 42.5. That's where I still like it. You're getting it at still maybe minus 118 on DraftKings. But I'm back in this under here tonight between Illinois and Nebraska. It's a classic Big Ten matchup with 2 good defenses. And you have Illinois' defense that I think is going to be, they're stronger and lean here, obviously. They do know how to, play pretty good defense, obviously. The one caveat is that they're going on the road here, obviously Nebraska, a pretty loud environment. We saw, how they, were pretty much handling Colorado with their defense and, how their defensive front can get to the quarterback. And that's what I'm backing on for Nebraska as well with their defensive line, being able to get to the quarterback. They know how to stop the run as well. They rank 16th in rushing yards per game allowed, and that's kind of what Illinois really relies on a lot more. Obviously, the pass game is working, but not working a lot, to really benefit, Altmaier and that whole Illinois team. I'm not a big fan of Altmaier as well, even with, the limited games that he's had. And you can say, oh, well, Illinois hasn't played anyone, but they did play Kansas, and that was, an upset. But Jalen Daniels sucks, and I don't really like that guy anyway. I think he's overrated. But Nebraska, when you look at home unders, Ari, I think Nebraska home unders have hit, I think, in the 2 out of the last 3 games, obviously. And you look at the games, obviously, UTEP, you look at Colorado, you look at UNI, you look at how they Nebraska looked defensively in each game. They really just forced pressure at the line, and I think that's what they're going to do tonight. I didn't really like a side. If I did like a side, I like Illinois on the point. I think they're going to make this close because I don't really think Nebraska has played anyone. You can kind of say Colorado, but Colorado, if you put Illinois and Colorado, I'd say in a neutral field, I'd probably give maybe 5.5 to Illinois. So I think that's kind of saying that, Colorado is not as good as what Illinois has played. So I think Illinois keeps this close, but I am backing it under. I think it's going to be a slow game. You look at both teams, obviously, this is going to be Loyola's first true test in terms of a good pass defense. Illinois obviously ranked top 30 in the nation in pass coverage, and obviously their pass, they allow, I think, under like about 150 pass yards per game. So this is going to be Dylan Raiola's first true test in the air, and I don't really know how he does. I just think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Obviously, it's a Friday night game, under the lights, Big Ten matchup. I'm just backing it under here. This total is going down, so I would get it as soon as you can, because if it goes under 42, I would stay away. But I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game between these two Big Ten teams. So give me the Illinois-Nebraska under here, 42.5. I got it a few days ago at a higher total, but like I said, I take it all the way down to 42. Once it gets below that number, I'd probably start looking at Illinois maybe on the points as a look as well. But I know that's going down as well from +8 to about 7.5. So I get that before that maybe gets down to below a touchdown. But though that's my one play for tonight. Obviously, with the limited college football slate we do have for the 3 games between in tonight's slate, I'm taking Illinois, Nebraska under 42.5. Ari, do you have anything for tonight?
No, I don't. So we'll go right into Saturday.
Yeah, let's go right into Saturday. Obviously, we got a big slate on Saturday, and I got 4 picks. And I know I usually don't give out a lot on Saturdays, but there is just so much value on the Saturday card. First, we're going to go to Coastal Carolina here. And I did not back them the first time I was with this team, but now we are backing them. I'm backing them on the points, +4 at home, -122 against Virginia. And we're mostly backing Coastal Carolina to really establish the run here, because that's what they lean on. Coastal Carolina, obviously top 15 rushing offense in the country. They run about 250 yards a game, which is absolutely crazy. They are a very high-octane offense that really relies on the run and getting that separation at the line of scrimmage. It's the quarterback. It's not Grayson McCall throwing the ball, okay? And that's kind of the thing here that we're relying on. It's not Grayson McCall. They really like to use this ground game. And I think that if they can really establish the run here early, I think it's going to be a long day for Virginia. Obviously, this is not going to be, this is not a big rivalry game, obviously, or anything like that. But, Coastal Carolina, obviously, they're going to treat it like a big game. It's an opportunity for a Power 4 conference coming into your stadium, on a big stage. And Virginia, obviously, they're coming off a bad loss at home against Maryland. But the thing is, Maryland's defense, I think, is very, very scary. Obviously, they forced Calandria to have 2 interceptions. And you look at the defense for this Coastal Carolina team, obviously, they rank, they're doing their job. They allow under 400 yards per game, about 330 yards per game total here. They're doing their job in terms of the big thing is they like to get sacks. They love to get to the quarterback. And I don't know how this Virginia Tech offensive line does. So I'm just going to mostly back the points here in Coastal Carolina. I think this is a bad matchup for Virginia. They're going on the road to face a team that, is pretty much going to trouble them at the line. And that's exactly what Maryland did last week. And we saw how that went. And on the other side, you look at Coastal Carolina's offense, they love to run the ball. And you look at, how Maryland pretty much won last week. Yes, they mostly in the air, but when you have the 13th ranked offense in terms of running, and I think they can just, if they just establish the run game early, I think it can be a long day for Virginia. I'd sprinkle the money line for Coastal, but I'm just more taking the fact that it's going to be a very low scoring, ground game probably for Coastal Carolina. Obviously, not really doing anything. Obviously, Virginia's going to try and stack the box, but I think with the battle of the line of scrimmage, I think Coastal Carolina does enough to get this game, to make this game interesting. So I think this game is going to be less than a field goal. So I'm taking Coastal Carolina on the points here at +4. I think it's going to be a very, very fun game. Probably low scoring. Like I said, I'm sprinkling Coastal Carolina on the money line. I think they have a good shot at winning this game, but I'm just taking the points here. So I'm taking Coastal +4. And then we're going to go to an ACC matchup here with Georgia Tech and Louisville. We're taking the over 57 here at -120. We're just backing points here. Obviously, with Georgia Tech, it's kind of weird because, with Georgia Tech, this is their 5th game, and it's not even like at the end of September. Like, that's crazy. They're already playing 5 games, and it's not even the end of September, which kind of proves evident that this game is going to go over. You have, all that collective film together, as well as film on the other team. This team, you look at Georgia Tech, and it's Haynes and Haynes. And when I say Haynes and Haynes, you're asking, what does that mean? Well, it's Haynes King and Jamal Haynes out the backfield, obviously. Haynes King, the quarterback, he really knows how to throw this ball well. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception for Georgia Tech on the year. He's really throwing the ball well, in his in his 4 games that he's played so far. In his last game, he had three passing touchdowns, obviously against VMI, but obviously I think that was, just obviously it's VMI, not a good school. But I think in this spot, I think Louisville is pretty vulnerable here. They haven't played anyone. They played Jacksonville State at home and they let up 14 points. And this Jacksonville State team, I don't think is really that good. I think this, I don't think that this, I don't think this Jacksonville State team is good. They let up 14 points, almost 300 yards on total. And on the other side, obviously, it was just the Louisville offensive showing. They put up 610 yards against that defense. Tyler Shuck, the transfer from Texas Tech, I forgot he even transferred there. He had 349 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. This Louisville offense is real, but I don't really know how they do in this spot. It's their third game of the season. They're coming off of a bye, and they're playing a Georgia Tech team that obviously is hungry. They have a lot more games under their belt. So with this, I'm just going to back in over here. I think both offenses are going to show out here. We have this Georgia Tech offense, obviously, which is more of a, dual, not dual threat, but, obviously kind of dual threat. You have Jamal Haynes out of the backfield and you have Haynes King, slinging the ball. And then for Louisville, obviously, it's just pretty high powered. Obviously, they really love getting a bunch of yards per play. They really love putting up the scoreboard, obviously. They average 55 points a game, but at the same time, they only played 2 games and haven't really faced anyone as competitive. So I'm going to take this over here between Georgia Tech and Louisville. I think it's going to be a high scoring game here with Louisville's inexperience in terms of who they played and all the experience Georgia Tech has, especially in the ACC already. So I'm going to take that over 57 here. And then I'm going to go to pretty much the game of the day, I'd say. And I'm going to take that first half under 28.5 minus 110 right now. Ari, I know you're also on this play. So it is officially our whale of the weekend. Tennessee, Oklahoma first half under 28.5 here. I think obviously you have Tennessee here and you just see offense with Nico. Obviously, Ari, I'll let you get into it in a little bit as well, but you see both of these teams, you think offense, right? But I think this is the game where Tennessee starts out a little slow. I think Oklahoma's defense is really going to start things to, I'd say limit Tennessee as much as they can in terms of that deep ball. We did see Jackson Arnold. He's not, I would say he's done okay. He hasn't done so amazing, but he's done just enough to get them some wins, especially in some crucial moments. But when you think of Oklahoma this year, you look at their defense, right? Oklahoma, they're third in takeaways. They average about 3 a game. They have 9 takeaways in 3 games. They love getting sacks. They don't allow that many rushing yards. They rely more on their ground game. So obviously that plays evident for and under. So obviously if Oklahoma is really going to keep things close in this first half, I think it is going to be with their ground game. But I think obviously they limit Tennessee on the other side as well. And we can't forget about Tennessee's defense, obviously, as well. They rank, 5th in terms of opponent passing yards, 4th in rushing yards, just 2 good defenses in the SEC. And obviously the SEC loves unders, obviously, just because it's really defensively, obviously just a defensive conference. We've seen Tennessee, and you can say, oh, this is Tennessee's first road game. You can kind of say that road game against NC State was a true road test. Obviously, even though it wasn't at NC State, it was in North Carolina. So it was a road game for them. They went in there and whipped on NC State. But I think this is where Tennessee is really vulnerable, going actually to a true road environment. Oklahoma is going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. And I think both teams really start out slow, trying to adjust to each other's tempo and style of play. And I think that's prevalent to our first half under here. So I'm taking that first half under 28.5. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game between these two offenses. Obviously, Tennessee, and how they have Samson, they have Nico, they have all these talented guys, but Oklahoma's defense is for real. And same for Tennessee's defense as well, with Oklahoma's offense not really, doing that much, as well. We've seen, we saw that one game against, what was it? I think Houston, where they won 16-12, just no offense in that game. So I'm just more back in that, thinking more of a defensive game here. So I'm back in Tennessee, Oklahoma, first half under 28.5. Ariel, no, I know you have that play as well, so I'll let you get into that in a little bit. And then my final play for Saturday is going to be Ole Miss on the spread here, minus the 35. And I know I don't really like backing these large spreads here, but when you look at this Ole Miss team, this team is for real. I mean, this team is for real. 3-0, you look at their schedule, and you can say, well, this might be a look-ahead spot. You know who they're playing next week? They're playing Kentucky. That's not a look-ahead spot. This Ole Miss team is going to wipe Georgia Southern. And this is no disrespect for Georgia Southern, because I think they're a great team. They have a good offense, but they haven't played anyone like Ole Miss yet. They led up 56 to Boise State. Ashton Jeanty had his way with that defense. I think that was his legacy game. Ran for 6 touchdowns. I could see Ole Miss having themselves an absolute field day with this offense compared to Georgia Southern's defense. I was not a big believer in Ole Miss's defense. That's why I took the over last week. They proved me wrong. They only let up 6 points to Wake Forest. That was the 5th best passing team in the country. 6 points on the road. Isn't that's crazy? They let up 6 points on the road. 4 for 17 on third down for Wake Forest. That's incredible. They couldn't convert a third down at home, and they put up 40 on the road. I think I think this team is for real. Like I said, the stock, I told you to get them in the offseason. Over 9.5 wins. That's looking really good right now. They're a top 5 team, so them to make the playoff is looking good right now. It's more just backing Ole Miss all season. Obviously, I like them in the spot. 35-point favorites. I think they run up the score. Obviously, like I said, I don't really backing these big spreads, but the last time I did that was Tennessee minus 49 against Kent State. They won 71-0, Ari. So I think Georgia Southern is going to have a long day trying to stop this Ole Miss offense. You have Jackson Dart throwing the ball. We've seen how talented he is throwing the ball. Out of the backfield, they have Parrish Jr. He can really run the ball well as being a good pass-catching back. Excuse me. But it's the Jackson Dart show. And I think we see a lot of that on Saturday night, obviously. This Georgia Southern defense, just not good. They allow almost, I think, 500 yards a game. So that it's just going to be a long day for them. So those are my 4 picks for Saturday. I'm taking Coastal Carolina on the points +4 at home as home dogs. We're taking Georgia Tech and Louisville over, taking that over 57.5. We're taking Tennessee and Oklahoma first half under 28.5. I know Ari's also on that play. And then we're taking Ole Miss on the points here -35 as big home favorites against Georgia Southern. No defense in them, and obviously. So those are my 4 picks for Saturday. I'll stop yapping, Ari. I know you got some picks for Saturday as well. What do you have for tomorrow's college football slate?
Yeah, 3 plays for me. We're starting off a little nasty with Northwestern going into Seattle to face UW, who's coming off, as you know, a heartbreaking loss last week. This Huskell's line is just really, really bad. And I think, even though Northwestern's not the best team, but they're physical enough and they have the defense, I think, to keep this game, within 1 score or essentially within single digits, or at least 10 points. You're getting a 1.5 here from the 10-point game, obviously. You look at also what the struggles were with the Huskies last week defensively was against Mateer's mobility, and Mike Wright, the quarterback for Northwestern, has ran the ball 9 times the past 2 weeks, so he's not afraid to take the ball and run. If he sees an opening, it's not the most dynamic offense, obviously, for Northwestern, but I think they have the run game and the defense to keep this game within 2 scores or within 10 points for this plus 11.5. Obviously, it's a tough travel spot because of how far they're traveling. So that's probably my biggest concern with this play. But as we talked about all offseason before the season started, that we're just not a huge believer in Washington this year, in year 1 under a new coach, with all that they lost and all the new pieces they brought in. And, I think we're going to continue to see that where they're not going to blow teams out, even if on paper you could say that maybe they're more talented than Northwestern and they have the home field. But I don't think that they have enough on both sides of the ball to blow a team out. So I think Northwestern can keep this game competitive and keep it within 7 to 10 points, kind of in that range. So that's my first play. Second play, as you touched on, Tennessee Oklahoma first half under. Obviously, you look at the Tennessee offense. I think they scored 71 last week, or they scored a ton of points last week. But yeah, this is the first true tough road spot for Iamaleava. I think that's how you say it. The redshirt freshman quarterback for Tennessee.
I want to say it's Iamaleava.
Iamaleava. That sounds
more. Nico. We'll just call him Nico.
That sounds more right. But yeah, Nico. first true road spot for him. Like you said, the Oklahoma defense that was really, really bad last year has shown a lot of improvement, this year. And then you have on the other side, you have Jackson Arnold, who we saw the first start from him last year against Arizona in the Alamo Bowl when he was essentially a gunslinger. He threw for like almost 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, also 3 picks. So far this year, he's been, pretty good, not great, but he's also what's notable, I think, here is in all 3 games he's been sacked 3 times. So he's, the offensive line isn't great for Oklahoma, and Tennessee, like you also has the defense to be able to get pressure on them and all that. We saw a game against Houston, whose defense is also solid this year. They won 16-12 in a low-scoring game. So I think this game, especially in the first half, which is why we're only doing the first half, is going to be, the first true road spot for the Tennessee's freshman quarterback in Nico, and then Tennessee has the defense to contain Arnold and that Oklahoma offense. So I really like the spot for the first half under, a slow start. For both teams for different reasons. For Tennessee's offense, just first true road spot for the freshman quarterback, and then their defense being able to contain Arnold, who even regardless has not been the most impressive or the most. I mean, they crushed Temple, but even then he only threw for 141 yards. Maybe they got the run game going in that game, obviously, but Tennessee's defense is a whole different animal than Temple, obviously. So. You expect them to crush Temple. So I think this is going to be kind of a gritty game early for both teams, and a pretty sluggish start offensively for both teams. And we'll see both defenses kind of limit those offenses in a way where this first half, I think it could potentially like soar under. I think potentially. So I like to look at 28.5 for the first half under. And then go into the other big Oklahoma school, Utah, Oklahoma State. Another one of the biggest games of the day. This is a tough spot because we don't fully know the status of Cam Rising after he missed last week. Dorian Singer said that he expects Rising to play. Obviously, we don't know that for sure. But, I mean, with the line being where it is at a pick-em, you assume he's going to play because if Rising was out, Oklahoma State would be a several-point favorite, obviously, at home. So you assume he plays based on the line. How healthy he'll be with this hand injury is the question, obviously. So I think in this first game back, we see Utah rely more on Micah Bernard, Mike Mitchell in their run game and their rushing attack. They kind of take pressure off of him. Oklahoma State, obviously, we know it's been a slow start for him, but they have one of the best running backs in the country in Ollie Gordon. They have relied actually quite a bit on Alan Bowman, the quarterback, so far this season. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards already, which is impressive. But, I'm mostly just backing the Utah defense that we know is really strong. And then the Utah run game, I think they're going to rely more on, with Rising, even if he plays, probably not fully healthy. If I had to guess, first game back off the hand injury. So mostly just backing. I lean Utah in this game, but I like the under more, just with the uncertainty of Rising, and then both teams' ability to run the ball. So yeah, 2 unders for me, and then 1 underdog to cover the spread on tomorrow's slate.
Yeah, I was looking at that Northwestern Washington game, obviously, and my first lean was obviously Northwestern on the points, but I just can't back that Northwestern offense. It's bad. It's bad, but I do like that under as well. I think I'm going to play that under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. You mentioned Northwestern, and their ability to have that dual threat. Obviously we saw last week Washington State, pretty much, being able to scramble outside. Some of those were design runs, some of those were scrambles. You can say that, but I think Northwestern obviously keeps this close as well. I put the low-scoring game, so kind of both playing with our plays there. Obviously, our whale of the weekend with Tennessee, Oklahoma first half under 28.5 points. I think that's a great look. You mentioned Oklahoma. Obviously they haven't allowed that many points at home so far, obviously, with their defense. And, this is true road spot for Nico, going to Oklahoma in a really loud environment, obviously, tomorrow night. I think as well, first half is a great look because, second half, they definitely like to make adjustments. And, we see a lot more, of these college football games having a lot more exciting second halves, was just because of, how, it was kind of like, remember how Georgia Clemson was, obviously, with a really high first half total. Everyone was thinking, oh, it's going to be an exciting game. And obviously it was a really one-sided game and just a low scoring game. But, I think that's going to be a similar look here, just a very low scoring game, two good defenses playing against each other here. So I like that Tennessee, Oklahoma first half under 28.5. And then in another game of the week, obviously, it's been a weird game. Obviously, I saw that game, Utah, when I was first doing my preview for Utah on the season, that game was a 1.5 spread in Utah's favor. And that was, no injuries, obviously, Utah going to OK State. And then as soon as Cam Rising under, that opened at OK State -3. And then now I saw Cam Rising potentially is playing. And then now it's going back to Utah -1. So in terms of a side, I'm waiting until the official Cam Rising news. But I do like that under, even though you mentioned it's going to be not 100% Cam Rising anyway. So they do probably going to rely on, the ground game to really get things going for them. And, I do think that, OK State will do just enough to maybe stop the run game. And you mentioned on the other side, OK State has not really, got Ollie Gordon going yet. It's been a weird year for him, but I think he'll eventually start to get things going. Obviously a Heisman favorite, we know how talented he is, in terms of his ground game. He can really stack up the score sheet. We saw that plenty of games where he's had, I think that one game, this year where he had, like 3 touchdowns or something, just absolutely, I think ran through South Dakota State, it was that South Dakota State game. 27 carries. They just absolutely gave him the ball, and Bowman still had a good game in the air. So, in the battle of, the LinkedIn versus the Indeed quarterbacks, because both of these guys are a combined age of 49, Ari. These guys need to go get a job.
You see the stat I posted, I think, on my fantasy account, where their combined ages are older than Colts Bears on Sunday with Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson by like 5 years, which is pretty crazy to think about.
That it's the battle of go get a job, just hand off to the running backs, because they're going to AARP soon. We're going to hand off that under here. So I do like that under as well. I was looking at Utah potentially, but I'm just waiting for that Cam Rising news. So obviously we have a big slate on Saturday as well, but obviously we still have Sunday. We got NFL on Sunday as well. I got 2 picks in on Sunday. Obviously it's been an interesting year for my NFL Sunday. So I'm just going to keep it a little light here with 2 plays that I like. First, we're going to go to pretty much a game where it's been weird with the line movement. I'm backing the Eagles as road dogs here at +3. This line before Monday Night Football ended was Eagles -3 on the road. Then, after Monday Night Football ended, it was the Saints -3 at home. That was a 6-point swing in not even like a half an hour, because the Eagles defense blew that game. And you can say the Eagles defense, but obviously Saquon Barkley. You can say, the play calling. You can blame whatever you want in that game. There was a loss. A loss is a loss. And I think this is a good look for an angry team going on the road against the Saints team that's obviously coming off a big win at home. Everyone's thinking, oh, the Saints are good. Oh, yeah, they beat down the Dallas Cowboys on the road. They're going to get 3 at home. Oh, yeah, Saints money line. Saints +3. Saints -3, excuse me. I'm sorry to tell you, but I think the Eagles are going to come in here angry. I think there's a chance where they win this game, but I don't really want to take that chance. I don't really know how this, the thing about the Eagles, that really, I guess, pulls me back is that Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's won or covered a spread in his last 9 games, and it's really not looking good. And I think that sense of desperation might be sinking in for. But you can say it's early. Obviously, it was a couple turnovers. A turnover on downs that it could have gone into the end zone. Obviously, with Barkley, you're thinking, why don't you run the ball on that third and 3, maybe get an extra yard or 2, then may force them to call a timeout, or we'll go again for it on 4th and 3, and then force your defense to do something as well, or forcing their offense with no timeouts. And we saw what happened there, but. Anyways, I still think the Eagles are a great spot here in this road spot. I'm more backing the fact that this line movement was just very strange for me. I think the Eagles, do cover the 3 here. I think they make this game really close. Obviously, we had a really close game last week because the Eagles lost by 1. So, I think that's plays precedent to this week. I think they play another close game as well, going on the road to the Saints. I'm not too confident that they win, but I think they do cover this spot here. So I'm taking the Eagles +3 here at -120. And then in probably the ugliest game of the week. I'm going to take the Giants-Browns under. Why? Because it's the ugliest game of the week. You have people want to say, do you want to back that Browns offense? No. Do you want to back the Giants offense? No. We're going to back an under. Exactly. You look at the Browns offense, complete shell of themselves. They don't really know how to get anything going. Their offense just does not look good. And, they only average about 18 points a game, just very slow move, just bottom 10 in almost all categories offensively. Obviously, they're a very defensive team, and I think that's what they're going to be relying on a lot more against the Giants offense. And the Giants, the Giants are a mess. Well, let's just say what it is. The Giants, obviously, last week you can say whatever you want, but that game should have gone over. But the reason it didn't go over, well, Giants couldn't do anything. The Commanders had like 6 of their, I think all, if I'm not mistaken, 7 field goals for the Commanders. And then, how do you allow 7 field goals to the Giants?
They're like the first team ever to score 3 touchdowns and allow 0 touchdowns and still lose the game.
Giants football, exactly. So, and I don't really like the Browns offense to do anything at all. It's a more ground heavy game. I think that this is going to be one of the ugliest games of the week. Obviously, we always talk about how Scott Hansen goes to different games. I think Scott Hansen might go to this game once. I'm not even kidding you. I think there may be one play in the red zone where we see maybe Jerome or whoever's carrying the ball at that time for the Cleveland Browns running into the end zone. We say, woo, and we don't see them again. Because it's going to be one of those ugly games. I can see this game being like a 20-6, maybe like a 20-30, maybe like a 20-10, a 17-3, just ugly. Going to be something like the Patriots, just really bad teams. Obviously, both offenses really struggling here. I do like the Giants potentially as a look on the spread, but I don't want to have to back Daniel Jones in that offense at all. So that's why I'm just going to back an under here. Obviously, you look at the Browns defense, obviously one of the best defenses, obviously in the league, just in terms of how they play. Obviously, we saw that Cowboys game, and you can say, oh, well, they didn't play good last week. But obviously, the Cowboys offense, up and down all around. And I do think that this Browns offense, really bad. Giants offense, really bad. I think it just proves for an under here. So I'm just backing both teams to really be bad on Sunday, both defenses to do their job here. So I'm taking the Giants-Browns under 38 here, -108 alongside with the Eagles plus the 3 as road dogs going down to New Orleans, catching 3 against the Saints, -120. Those are my 2 plays for Sunday. Just keeping it light, obviously. Been having a little bit of a rough Sunday to start the year, but slowly going to get myself back into the groove of things. Which is a couple plays on Sunday. Eagles plus the 3, Giants-Browns under 38. Ari, what have you cooked up for this Sunday?
Yeah, 2 plays for me as well, and probably fitting 2 of the more trending teams right now in the NFL. First, going to the Texans against the Vikings, and obviously, I've been rocking Minnesota so far with their start so far of the season, but I think that this is a good spot for the Texans. I would say what we've seen mostly relied on from the Vikings is their defense has been way better than expected, and obviously you give credit to them for that. But a lot of what they rely on defensively is blitzing, and last year Stroud was like one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. They still have a secondary that is beatable when a quarterback can beat the blitz, and that's exactly what Stroud can do. I think here, it's in Minnesota, so they have the home field, but which I think is why the spread is where it is. Otherwise, I think the Texans would be a bit bigger of a favorite. So I'm mostly, and then Texans defense has actually been really solid as well so far this season. So I'm just backing the better offense here and a defense that has been good enough, I think, to keep Minnesota in check, enough for Texans to, come out of this game with a pretty decisive win. I think is what we'll see. And then going to the afternoon slate, the Cardinals, who obliterated injured, Rams team last week. Lions coming off a loss to the Buccaneers. I like the Lions to bounce back here against the Cardinals defense. I don't think is as good as what we saw last week. I will say more of my edge here is the Lions scoring. So I like the Lions team total over potentially, but where I'm at, I don't get those lines. So I'm just backing the Lions to cover the spread here. I think the Cardinals defense looked good against a banged up offensive line in an offense that was missing a lot of pieces. The Lions' offensive line is obviously one of the best in the league, and I think we're gonna see them get Montgomery and Gibbs going in the run game to kind of turn off the clock and kind of keep the Cardinals offense off the field in this one. The Cardinals secondary is also beatable. I mean, they have some good pieces like Buda Baker and whatnot, but it's not great overall. I think they should have Amon-Ra fully healthy. This could be finally a big game for Laporta after it still starts the season. Jameson Williams obviously can take the top off the defense, so I think we're going to see that. And then on the other side, the Lions have really been good at stopping the run. So this is a tough matchup for James Conner, which has been a big part of kind of opening up the passing game for the Cardinals. So, I still think the Cardinals are going to score. They're still going to, we're still going to see a pretty good game from Kyler and the passing offense and all that. But I think we're going to see, a lot of long possessions from the Lions with them, like we saw last year a lot of times with their running game. And then kind of a lot of quick passes to Amon-Ra and Laporta and, Gibbs and Montgomery out of the backfield as well, along with the occasional deep ball, to Jameson Williams. So I think we're going to see the Lions bounce back, and the Texans finally give the Vikings their first loss of the season after 2-0 start.
I do like those two plays for you. Obviously, first you had the Texans. They do. I do like them. I do like the Texans in the spot here. Obviously, as slight road favorites. It's weird with obviously a lot of people were low on this Vikings team, but obviously one of the 2-0 teams in the NFL right now. Obviously looking to be 3-0, but you mentioned, the Texans defense did look really well last week against the Bears at home. Obviously just really getting to Caleb Williams, but, maybe you can say, well, Caleb Williams and that Bears offensive line is not the best, but, I think they do get that same kind of pressure to Sam Darnold this week, maybe forcing some rush throws and maybe trying to neutralize the run as well, not letting Aaron Jones get up in open space. You mentioned the Texans as well, just in terms of their offense. CJ Stroud, it's always been the narrative the Texans play a lot better at home versus on the road. But, we saw how the Texans did at the Colts week 1, obviously just getting the 2-point win there. So, and I think the Colts in Minnesota, if you put them on a neutral field, I definitely, maybe give a slight edge to Minnesota right now. I'm just not the biggest believer in Anthony Richardson yet. But I do like the Texans in this road spot, getting a -2 pretty much. So just hoping for a field goal win for you. And obviously going with the Lions as road favorites as well. I'm more on the over as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game between these two offenses. But you look at the Lions, obviously, you were mentioning the team total for the Lions. I do like that as well. I think the Lions, obviously, coming off an offensive week where they struggled against the Buccaneers, I think they match up very well defensively, obviously. And I think they match up offensively very well against the Cardinals defense that ranks pretty much near dead last. Obviously, the Cardinals are coming off a week where they absolutely shut down the Rams, but the Rams offense, injured, not the same. You can say it's, a shell of itself. And I think that the Cardinals obviously are going to have a lot of, pressure to keep up with this Lions offense, who are coming in angry, obviously, off of a tough loss at home. I think this game could be a lot high scoring. So I'm on the over here. I didn't really want to have to back a side here. I just think there's going to be a lot of points here. We saw how Kyler Murray, is really making his MVP season campaign this year, obviously with MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., and obviously still Connor out the backfield. They still have McBride, obviously. So I'm just more backing over there, but I do lean the Lions, on the spread here. And at the side, I think they get the job done after a bounce back week. Obviously, Jared Goff's still indoors. He's not outdoors, obviously. So that's a pretty big reason as to why I like the Lions in this road spot. Obviously, Goff's still indoors. So I do like the Lions as a look for you at -3. So that's a recap of the weekend. First, going back all the way to tonight's game. For me, I have Illinois and Nebraska on the under. Like I said, if it's under 42 right now, I would stay away, but I'd buy it up to maybe 42 and a half as well. That's for my best bet for tonight. Obviously, we got a big weekend Saturday. I got 4 best bets here with Coastal Carolina, Georgia Tech, Louisville over, and then Ole Miss on the points -35, and then our way of the weekend with Tennessee, Oklahoma first half under 28.5, along with Ari's 2 other plays with Northwestern on the spread, and then the Utah OK State game going under 54. And then concluding on Sunday with our 2 best bets for each of us. First with me with the Eagles covering the 3, and then the Giants Browns ugly game going under, and then Ari with his 2 best bets for Sunday, just backing the Texans on the road and the Lions on the road. Those find all these best bets on our Twitter, AKP Sports. We'll have all of this posted. Obviously, we'll have tonight's card posted soon. We'll have Saturday's card posted by tonight, and then Sunday's card posted by Saturday night. So you'll have all of that. But if you want all of these picks earlier, you can come onto this video. That'll be posted down below on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in. That's Ari. I'm Korea. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much. We will see you on Monday, obviously, for our recap and to preview not one, but 2 Monday night games. Obviously, we got the Jags going to Buffalo to face the Bills, and we got the Commanders going to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. So we now have 2 Monday night games, obviously a little more intriguing than one, and obviously more intriguing games than the Thursday night game we just saw. But obviously, we'll have some best bets for those 2 Monday night games, and of course, a recap of how we did this past weekend coming soon. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is Ari. I'm Korea. We will see you guys on Monday.